Hello, happy Sunday. Good morning, and hope everyone's having a good weekend. Emmy is here with us. She's leaving now, but anyway, yeah, it's been an interesting journey. And when we started off several months ago in the Disciples Cross and becoming and living who Jesus called us to be. Through the Disciples Cross, you can see that the videos are on there, but just text me or email me or message me or whatever else, and I'll get you the information. And then from there, we spent quite a while with the promises of Christ, which that was an interesting journey for me. That it really was. It was a whole lot. I'll tell you, this was more challenging, but very interesting for me personally. And this one has been kicking me in the teeth. It is DIY Jesus is and I truly pray and I truly hope you're diving into this on your own and really searching this out more on your own because of the challenge that I feel with it, and because if I'm challenged, then presumably you would be as well. You will be as well. So DIY Jesus, right? We started off with the foundation. Why did the disciples? Why did they live the way they lived? Why did they die the way they died? Almost choosing these deaths, almost. Certainly understanding that had they stayed with Christ, had they continued in preaching Christ, had they continued in living for Christ the way they were doing, that they were going to die because of it, and all they had to do was pay attention to the ones that died before them. Stephen, for instance, in Acts chapter 7, they were probably going to die a brutal death, and all of them but John did. And of course, John was boiled in oil and survived that miraculously, and then was exiled to Patmos, a prison island. Well, that can't be a piece of cake. Why Jesus? And I think it's clear that Jesus was exactly who he claimed to be. So, and the second one was, why Jesus for you? Why Jesus? And what does that cause to happen in your life? So, getting into the DIY Jesus, the first one, item number one was love one another. Item number two was, don't just read the word, but do what it says. And item number three takes a little bit of explanation, a little bit of Bible knowledge, but boy, it's impactful. Anyway, item number three is, be transformed, don't conform. Be transformed, don't conform. And you may already know which scripture verse or I'm going to focus on, but I want you to really understand. If you do already know the verse, if you don't, it's Romans 12:1 and 2 that we're gonna focus on, and there's tons of others to support that same thought. Don't conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed. Excuse me. We're going to look a little deeper into this particular verse. Anyway, with that, let me go ahead and read it. Romans 12:1 and 2. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. So Paul wrote that in the book of Romans, of course, the four Gospels, Acts, Romans, and Corinthians, and et cetera, from there. The New Testament is not necessarily in chronological order. But if you look at this particular verse somewhat in chronological order. The Damascus Road happened where Paul met Christ, right? And you can go find it in Acts chapter 9. But that happened somewhere around 33 or 34 AD. Um, Not to say that it was life altering for Paul is a massive understatement. It changed the course. 180 degrees changed the course of his life, and ultimately led him on the path to his beheading, his execution, because of Christ. But and Romans was written probably in Corinth, probably on his third missionary journey, and written in about 57 A.D. And that's important. And here's why. For me, here's why. Second Corinthians was written about a year, maybe 2 years, maybe as much as 3 years before Romans. And there's a passage in there that's always haunted me in a way, and in another way, it was very telling about Paul's belief in who he believed Christ to be. It's very telling in his dedication to that message. It's very telling in his absolute 1,000% belief in the message that Jesus Christ is exactly who he claimed to be. And what I mean by that is in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 21 to 29, Paul's talking. He's talking about false prophets and false teachers at first, and then later on in 21 and 29, he's somewhat jokingly boasting about what he's done because these other people have boasted about what they're doing. And here's verses 24 to 26. 5 times I received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. And you can find a bearing on that one in Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 1 through 3. But I'll go on. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones, stoned to death as on his first missionary journey. So they thought, and he, in my view, from the reading of it, sounds like he came back to life and then left that town the next day. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea. I have been constantly on the move. I've been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my fellow Jews, in danger from Gentiles, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, in danger from false believers. And it goes on to talk about his anxiety for the churches. You know, basically it says, who hurts that I don't feel that hurt? I don't hurt. So let's think about this for just a second. So he wrote this about, call it 22 years after his first meeting with Christ on the Damascus Road. So let's just say, for ease of math, let's just say 20 years, okay? So 5 times in that 20-year period, he was given 40 lashes minus 1 by the Jews or from the Jews. Now Deuteronomy says that you do not give them 40 lashes or more, because it's degrading to you, to the nation of Israel. I have heard that it was said that 40 lashes would kill a man and 39 would just bring him to the brink of death, or a person, woman or male or female. But think about this now. There may have been bones and glass weaved into these lashes. So running with that, he's given these 39 lashes once, and then his back heals, and there's scar tissue, right? And the second time he's given 39 lashes, and going with the physical part of this, right? And not only is it tearing as they do this, is it tearing new skin, but it's tearing scar tissue. And then the 3rd time, and then the 4th time, and then the 5th time. So think about maybe you've got scar tissue and you understand how tender it can be. So basically, if just going with the numbers, if it worked out this way, we have no idea. But this is once every 4 years, plus being stoned, plus being beaten with rods 3 times, plus being shipwrecked, plus being in danger all over the place. And then he writes Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. His belief in that statement is to be based on numerous other things, but based on 2 Corinthians 11, 21 to 29, beyond question. He believed 100% in what he says, and when he tells us not to be conformed but be transformed, he believed it. Every saying in Judah in Judaism, every jot and tittle, which are the smallest marks in their language, in their written language. He believed every iota of that. He believed every molecule, every that was in the ink when he wrote it. He believed everything about it, and he lived it. So let's kind of break it down. So just from the physical side, right? Paul believed it with his life. And he wrote Romans. Remember, he wrote Romans somewhere as much as, say, 4 years after he wrote 2 Corinthians 11, 21 to 29. So he believed conform, transform, don't conform. So let's break it down a little bit. What did he call us to do? He said to present our bodies, our lives, right, as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. And again, remember this in relation to 2 Corinthians 11, 21 to 29. Present your lives, your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. That's exactly what he's done for the last 25 years at the writing of Romans. Why? Why did he say to do this? That this is our true and proper worship. How did he say to do this? He said not to conform to the patterns of this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of our minds, by the renewing of our mind through prayer, by the renewing of our mind through Scripture, by the renewing of our mind to believe what we read and put it into action, just like he did, and to believe what we learned about and through Christ and put it into action, just like he did. What's the result? Then you will be able to test and approve God's will, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. That's big. Just as a for instance, I'll put it in the notes, of course, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 other verses just to back up that are similar to Romans 12, 1 and 2 in the list of DIY Jesus. There's others. I mean, I know there are, but I mean, look, let's face it, if you're not going to get the lesson after 12, 1 and 2, plus all the other 19, if I'm not going to get the lesson in the exact same way and come to the understanding the same way, God help us, right? What do? We present our bodies, our lives as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. Why? This is our true and proper worship. How do we do this? Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. What's the result of all of this? That then you will be able to test and approve God's will, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. So based on that, I've got 3 questions, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up real quick. But question 1, where could this verse take you or lead you on your spiritual journey if you did what it says? Remember item number 2. DIY Jesus item number 2. Don't just read the word, do what it says. Question number 2. Would it please God if you did this? Beyond question. Yes, absolutely. I think Paul answers that really in verse 2. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Well, naturally, it's going to please God. Question number 3, will it be easy? Wasn't for Paul. Has it been easy for you so far to be a Christ follower? Has it been easy for me so far to be a Christ follower? No. It's interesting because I read a post or a comment on a post about how the apostles died, and a guy commented on there that Jesus couldn't protect his apostles, so why should I want to have anything to do with him? Man, that's an interesting statement. And what's interesting about it is I'm 180-degree opposite of what this guy is saying. The deaths of the apostles proved to him that he should have nothing to do with Jesus. The deaths of the apostles proved to me that Jesus' message to them was very clear, and they believed it 1,000%. And I should pursue Christ partly because of the deaths of the apostles and how they died, as well as Paul, as well as so many others. Will this journey be easy? I hope it is for you, but it has not been for me. Matter of fact, it's like I said, just looking into DIY Jesus, man alive, is this punching me in the teeth. I'm telling you, it's tough because it's showing me my weaknesses. It's showing me my shortcomings relative to Christ, and it's not easy. And I pray that you will dive in deeper. And let me just go ahead and tell you, chances are very good it will not be easy. That's just my thought on it. I hope it is. I hope it's easier for you than it has been for me. And don't get me wrong, it hadn't all been bad. It's all been amazing. The bad's been amazing. The good's been amazing. Because I've never doubted whether or not God was there. I've never doubted if I was on the wrong path. And I think that's what Paul is really telling me here. Continue in the struggle. Continue in the fight. Here's what Peter had to say about it. This is somewhat similar. Peter wrote 2 Peter potentially just months before maybe even later than that, before his execution. He was already in a Roman prison when he wrote 1st and 2nd Peter. Prison in Rome. He knew his death was imminent because of Christ. Nero put him to death, who hated Christians. But he was crucified upside down on a cross, and he chose to be crucified that way because he was not worthy to be crucified the way that Jesus was, to die the way Jesus did. But here's what Peter said. This is 2 Peter 3:11 and 12. What kind of people ought you to be? You ought to live holy and godly lives as you look forward to the day of God and speed its coming. Do not conform, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you will be able to test and approve God's perfect will. That's a promise. That's a big promise. I pray that, as always, I pray that you and I will live loved, live blessed, that we'll live kind, and that we will live changed because of Christ. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm on this thing right now. Because of Christ. Be blessed, everyone. Have a great one. Bye.